This is your Chargers linebacker, Daiyan Henley, and you're tuning in with Chargers Unleashed.
Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Daiyan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. This is your first time tuning in the show. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe button on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Daiyan Wolkenstein, happy Saturday to you. Happy Saturday to everyone in the chat. Week 2 of Chargers free agency, Dan. We were wondering last week when we did the live show after the Becton signing to say what was going to take place, because we were still in the mix of free agency while also looking to April 24th in the NFL draft. And much like the Chargers did in the first week of free agency, middle of the week, end of the week, come up with 2 very nice signings for depth and starter capabilities in Andre James and Tyler Conklin. And obviously we're going to go over everything as it relates to that. And still with 33 days now remaining until the NFL draft, we will obviously have draft talk on this show. But as Dan and I always like to do when it comes to these live shows, you guys drive the show. Narrative is driven by you. So any questions that you may have, get them into the chat. Let's talk some football for the better part of the next hour. Daiyan Wolkenstein, happy Saturday to you. How are you feeling? Dare I ask, what caffeine is in your bloodstream right now?
I am great. Happy Saturday. Life is wonderful. I've got, of course, a latte. Come on, you can't have anything better. I think it's a caramel apple latte I went with today. It took way longer than I thought. I apologize for the 2-minute delay because the frothing was taking a bit. But I am great. There we go. What are you having?
I've got about 160 milligrams of caffeine.
I wasn't sure where you're going with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Danger Close 619 says, I'm so sorry, Joe. And this whole last couple of weeks feels like that meme of, I wasn't familiar with your game. Have you seen that meme? Like,
oh, yeah.
Everyone was just flaming this staff. And some people might still be, who knows? But they've told us who they are so many times, and they continue to do so. Lots to get into. Chargers Unleashed hotline was going live. You've got some of those voicemails. If anybody wants to come into the Chargers Unleashed hotline while the show is live, 323-902-7586. Again, 323-902-7586. Andre James, Conklin, now your latest Los Angeles Chargers free agent, signed. Before we get to all the fun, all the goodness, can I ask you a question?
It's either going to be pay the bills or how am I doing? Let's see which one actually falls
it's a
first.
Question. So can we please now pay the bills?
Sure.
Okay.
Now that I know that that's the first one, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. You think you know your stuff? Get into our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every single week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of up to $200K. When the game is over, head on over to our online casino and get on a game with blackjack or poker or on one with one of our 150 slot games. Head on over to the website today to get in on the action. BetOnline, the game starts here.
So, Jake, where shall we start? Thomas Hawley, good morning. $5 donation. Thank you, Thomas. Good morning, fellas. Bolt up. Love what Hortiz is cooking. Some in the chat are asking for a little bit more salt and pepper with this meal. But, Jake, how's he cooking?
Looks good right now. Looks like a nice stew that's mixing together that you leave on the pot for about, or maybe in a crock pot for like a 6 to 8 hour cook. Because the Chargers, what they have done with these particular signings that they have brought in over the last 2 weeks, whether it was in-house free agents, outside pieces like Andre James, Tyler Conklin, depth pieces that you needed at certain positions, everything has been set up now for the Chargers as it relates to the NFL draft, for them to seriously just go BPA every single round. And you could prioritize that however you want. I don't think that the signing of Tyler Conklin yesterday eliminates the possibility of the Chargers going tight end at 22 at all. I don't think the signing of Andre James takes the Chargers out of offensive linemen at 22 at all. Same thing goes for Najee Harris does not take the Chargers out of running back conversation at 22 whatsoever. And literally, they have set themselves up so well where you could just stack rank this down the board. Whatever the BPA option is, regardless of the round, the Chargers could go there. And when you have that type of flexibility to where you don't have to pigeonhole yourself into say, yes, we need this here.
Yeah.
It allows so many more possibilities.
There's a comment in here talking about draft proof. Let me pull this up here. Chargers fan from the UK here, says Nicholas, looks like the draft proofing is coming along nicely, which I love that term. D-line or tight end in the first round. For me, bolt across the pond. Draft proofing is almost exactly what this team is doing. And I believe they're now up to 20 free agent signings. So while folks might be saying that this Chargers team is just sitting on their thumbs, like it is quite literally the opposite. And I'm curious how many other teams have done 20 free agent signings. I don't know the number, but I bet you it's not many.
And the Chargers still have, obviously we'll wait for the numbers to come in, but as of right now, I think they have a little over 40 million in cap space left.
Yeah, effective probably mid to high 20s, but still, they got money to spend. Now, can they roll it over? Sure. Do I think they're going to bring in some more folks on free agency, which we'll talk about here in a bit? Maybe. Yes, I do. But they've talked about this strategy of utilizing free agency to build the depth of the roster and supplementing it with the draft that you can then bring in your star-studded talent instead of paying top dollar for free agents. And at best, live up to the value, but more often than not, do not. Now, fast forward 2 weeks, Chargers have added 2 interior offensive linemen, which is arguably the most important part of this offseason. They brought in some of their talent that was on the roster last year, i.e. Elijah Molden, Troy Dye, Denzel Perryman, etc. Then they've added bulk, right? They brought in Najee Harris. They brought in Mike Williams to be the X outside, more physical presence on the boundaries. They've now, with Tyler Conklin, added some depth to tight end position. A lot of those quote-unquote holes that this Chargers team had, or still has, in my opinion, have been risen from a floor perspective. The worst that they are is much better than when they started, obviously. It better freaking be. But go to the interior defensive line. Look at the cornerback room. So much has been built up for the underbelly. And some of it might be starting caliber, right? The Mekhi Becton, that's a starting caliber. Andre James, I think he's going to start. You look at the Dante Jackson, the Benjamin St. Juste. I think these guys are going to be playing for starting snaps. The way that this Chargers staff has kind of come in, brought in all of this, again, not star-studded talent, but depth talent that enables them to go into the draft, like you said, Jake, and actually go BPA. And every team talks about this. Every team talks about going BPA and the idea of possibly doing it, but not every team actually can do it. They can talk you into it, but not every team can actually do it. And that's why you see teams like the Eagles who actually do it get away with it every single year. You're like, how can they possibly do this?
Well, they've been set up to do it for a number of different years. But that you go back to whatever point you want to put at as far as the last 6 to 8 years. And it's literally taken them that type of accumulation through draft, through free agent signings to be able to afford themselves to do it. With the help, obviously, of 31 other teams that allow certain players to fall to them at that spot. And you're like, oh my God, they did it again. But it's been a long setup for the Eagles to be in a position to draft BPA every single round. And now when you're looking at the Chargers moves that they have specifically done, it's pretty impressive considering that the number of cap space, and as you said, Dan, 20 free agents that they have brought in.
Yep.
They've put themselves in a position to do this that are going to obviously make for moves for 2025 and beyond, which is great. And that's how you build a team starting at the floor.
Yes. Action Dan 65, $20 donation in the morning. I love it. Thank you, Action Dan. Conklin was predicted to average $9 million a year contract. He signed with the Chargers for $3 million, $4.5 with incentives. Chef Ortiz is the emerald of the NFL. Bam! Yeah. I mean, again, value under $5 million. Like, it's just like DJ Khaled over and over and over and over and over. Another one, right? That's basically how it goes. Gary Walkwell with a $10 donation. Wow, folks are feeling kind this morning. Steve Smith said that T-Mac, a favorite of yours, is primarily another Mike Williams. Wouldn't it make sense to look at someone like Bond for wide receiver? Well, first off, I think T-Mac is a favorite for a lot of people, especially in this class. And I don't necessarily know if it's a bad thing to look for another Mike Williams, especially if you're looking for the future. But Jake, what are your thoughts on it being maybe too redundant and looking at someone like a Bond or someone else?
As it relates to Bond or any other wide receiver in the circumstance, there's so many options now for the Chargers to take.
Real quick, time out. Gary says, sorry, guys, confused you the guilty as charged.
I'm sure that they did, and as soon as Dan says that, his video freezes up for a second, which was fantastic.
So, my bad. I was just saying they confused us with guilty as charged. It's all good, but still, the topic stays true.
T-Mac, like I said, is probably, if he was to fall to 22, which Daniel Jeremiah had in his latest his latest mock draft, that would be the one that I would actually give serious consideration to the Chargers taking, because I think that the value for him would be there. I think in terms of giving you a dynamic presence like Tet would do wonders for Justin Herbert moving forward. And again, you have to think about it. Mike Williams is only on a 1-year contract. We still don't know what the future holds for Quentin Johnston on this team. So you have to start thinking in terms of moves that they are going to make in regards to maybe guys that won't be here come 2026. Now, as it relates to the rest of the wide receivers in this class, there's plenty of X options that you can look at. I'm a big fan of Isaiah Bond. I don't think anybody on their bingo card had Matthew Golden running a 4.29 and outpacing his counterpart. It's Isaiah Bond. That was just wild to see. Even though the time that Bond put up for his combine was a great time for a wide receiver, it just was undershadowed from the standpoint that he called his shot for what he was going to run. I really like Isaiah Bond. I think that he could be a valuable piece to any NFL offense. And I don't discredit the Chargers looking there. And personally, I think that they're looking at all options right now. And this is the opportunity that you have now afforded them to do so. If I had to put money on the type of wide receiver that I think that they're going to go after in the NFL draft, regardless of my personal feelings on Isaiah Bond and how much I like him, I think that they're still going to go that prototypical X wide receiver, which you can find.
They're going to go big.
Yes, which I think that you can find by the end of day 2.
Like who?
Well, if we were going down the line here, let's see. I really like Pat Bryant out of Illinois. I've been a huge fan, obviously, of Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. Torrey Horton, I think is going to surprise a lot of people, considering the fact that he went down early with an injury. You look at the years that he had before that at Colorado State, we would probably be talking about him higher if he had not gotten injured. And I thought that him coming back to the combine after the injury and running the time that he ran was great for him. I think he's going to be a perfect downfield threat for any offense that gets him. So you come to day 2, I think there's going to be a number of options if you're just pigeonholing it into that X receiver type. But that's just my opinion. They could go a million different ways.
They could. And I think that's kind of the glory of this is this Chargers team can go multiple ways. Now, I kind of push back a little bit on, the idea of, well, they already have a Mike Williams. They don't need that. Like, I would argue the opposite. One, Mike Williams has a history of getting injured. Now, again, he's 2 years removed, but still. Also, 1-year contract. Also, not getting paid much. And if you can get 2 young receivers on rookie contracts that can be studs alongside Justin Herbert in that offensive line, and hell, heaven forbid, a running game, you're cooking. And I don't think that's a redundancy. I think that the 2 things this Chargers team has needed from a receiving core perspective, not tight end, receiving core specifically, has been stretch the field burner, and 50-50 ball guy. And I don't necessarily know if this Chargers team needs to go get like the bona fide guy at either of them. I think that they need to just go get the competent guys at both of them, considering the other positions need to get filled. But if the receiver fills either of those positions, short or long term, sign me up. Sign me up. So, I mean, beggars can't be choosers at this point. This Chargers team just did not have enough competent weapons on the outside or at tight end. And so you bring in a Tyler Conklin, that helps. You bring in Mike Williams, that helps. Najee Harris, Mekhi Becton, Andre James, all of that should help with all the struggles you saw with protection and the run game. I think it kind of sets up pretty clearly with what this Chargers team lacks and how they can attack it. And the good news is the positions that they need to attack, they kind of set up nicely with how this draft is set up and the depth of the positions there. So, you know, I heard, Jake, I think I want to get your take on this. We saw last year, right? All the Malik Neighbors, Joe Alt, JC Latham, Marvin Harrison, blah, 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 blah. And you saw how that kind of played out where you combine the two rounds, right? Round one, round two. You take Joe Alt plus Ladd McConkey or Malik Neighbors or pick a receiver plus whoever else. I'm curious from your perspective, what that comparison is this year. Because in my opinion, it kind of seems like when I look at positions and depth and where they can kind of trade off what might make more sense and which one's more deep, they can go out and get, you know, the bona fide, let's call it interior defensive linemen. There's a whole crop of them, right? They can go out and get a corner, an edge. There's not many of those tight ends. And then you can double dip maybe around two. So in your opinion, what's like that formula of start early with one, and then you can still come back, get a bunch of value in day two? I'm not putting you on the spot here.
You and the fucking hypotheticals, Dan. It never ceases to amaze me.
This isn't even a hypothetical. This is not a hypothetical.
Weekly occurrence or a daily occurrence, however frequently we may be recording this show.
This is not a hypothetical.
Put you on the spot, right, Wolkenstein? Yeah. First of all, you have to take into context that the scenario that the Chargers are in now, leading into the draft, much different than what they were in last year. Because when you look at it last year, and yes, Joe Alt may have been the best player available on the Chargers big board, but it was still such a huge need for them to address the offensive line in general. So we knew that was going to happen. People obviously had their differing opinions as far as when it should have taken place. Chargers chose to go with it. Number one, come back around in round two, get Ladd McConkey. Now, if it's me in this particular draft, I still say you're going to address the trenches 1 and 2. If my gut was really telling me.
Is that what you want, or is that what you think they're going to do?
I'm putting my Joe Ortiz hat on.
Okay.
And considering what they will do. And it's a good point that you made in terms of how deep the interior of the defensive line class is. You can come back around at 55 and find yourself a stud defensive lineman there. You can also find a really great player at 22. And the Andre James signing changes things a little bit in terms of how you may fluctuate it. A week ago, I would have told you it looks like all roads may lead to Gray Zabel at 22 if he's there. And honestly, if that was still the pick, I'd be just fine with it.
Yeah.
I would be just fine with it. Tight end. And again, this is a very big possibility of there's still a huge chance of this not happening, considering a lot of people believe that Loveland won't be there at 22. And I understand the reasonings for that. But just always remember that every single year that we go into this, some guy that we talk about in terms of, there's no way that they're going to be there at that particular spot
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow they are.
Someone's going to do it. There's somebody that's going to fall. It always happens.
I remember when Rashawn Slater was coming out of the draft and people thought that he was going to be gone well before the Chargers
Derwin James, anyone?
How the hell did Brian Branch go to the second round and fall into the Detroit Lions' lap?
Just look to the Eagles. Everyone in the draft.
There's been so many scenarios of this. Now, I'm not saying that that's exactly what's going to happen with the Colston Loveland situation, but in something to keep in mind for everybody as it relates to this upcoming NFL draft. There's always going to be circumstances like this where there's going to be some guy that falls for no apparent reason at all, and he's going to be there. And now the Chargers have put themselves in a position where you can go so many different directions. And it's probably the best case scenario given how this free agency process has panned itself out. But if you were to tell me today, Dan, I still say it's trenches, round 1, round 2, because of the fact that, especially with the defensive line that you have put together so far in free agency, Tito's contract's coming up. We don't know what that future is. And all 3 guys that you signed as free agents to the interior are all on 1-year deals. You got to prep that for the future. So whatever combo you want to spin it in terms of interior defensive line, round 1 or round 2, I still think it's going to be trench picks. First 2 selections for the Chargers.
Fitness putting Jake on his spot. Now he's talking hypocriticals, and then he says hypotheticals. But either way, hypocriticals, hypotheticals. I like hypocriticals.
We're gonna trend that word now in the show.
Write that
hypocriticals.
Down? Can you write that down?
Hypocriticals. I like that.
But yeah, Jake's flipping the script, putting a hypothetical in here. But so the way I was kind of thinking about it as you were talking, because I didn't even answer my own question before I asked it. Like, what is the, I don't want to say thinnest position in the draft, but what is the position in which you can find, and again, it's hard at 22 versus 5, right? But generally speaking, which position has like a wide gap between first round talent and second round pick? And so, especially, so like 22 versus 55, I'm not talking 33 or 34. I'm talking like end of round 2. And I think interior defensive lineman, I think that goes deep. I don't think the gap is that big there. Edge, same thing. Receiver, same thing. Running back, same thing. But you look at the positions that are, in my opinion, thin. If you want like that flex interior offensive line, like that Gray Zabel archetype, like that is thin. If you just want like a guard, you can get so many of those that go from tackle to guard or just guards. And then tight end, there's literally 4. There's probably 4 that Chargers fans in this front office probably would be like, hey, that's a starter. So
I'd make an argument that there's 5.
Fine. Say 7. I don't care. To get to 55. So again, so put that back to the offensive tackle and receiver discussion last year. How many tackles were great last year? And I'm talking great, other than Joe Alt.
And remember, 8 of those offensive linemen, guard or tackle, were taken in the first round.
And there were a bunch of dudes that were good. And in that class, it was Joe Alt above the rest. And it was still, by the time it got to the second round, it was slim pickings. Receiver, there were loads of dudes, i.e. McConkey falls. They trade up to get him. If you don't get a tight end in this draft class early, you're not getting one. At least that's making an impact early. You're just not. And so I kind of put myself in the Joe Hortiz, Jim Harbaugh hat of like, all right, which position has to get selected early or else you're going to literally miss out on it. And so tight end's 1, in my opinion. What's another? Like, what is a thin position group this year
you could say
requires them to have to go early?
You could say off-ball linebacker, but the Chargers are essentially set at that position with everything that they've done in free agency thus far. I think that that's one that if you're going to come back around to it and invest in it for the future, that you can wait on that. Not necessarily one that you would say in the first round for that. But I agree with your analysis as far as tight end in terms of that stacking it in that tier form. Trenches are deep, both offensive and defensive alike. Running back is obviously deep. And as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, in terms of that X receiver archetype that you'd be looking for, you can find someone like that on day 2 for the Chargers. I would have told you a month ago, and even with what Brett Coleman was referring to when we had him on the show, if Jedi Barron would have been there at 22, he's not, unfortunately. But if he would have been there at 22, holy shit.
Here's a hypothetical.
Okay, at least you're prepping me for it.
No, you just gave me one. I'm saying you're flipping scripts. I like this.
But see, I'm saying the hypothetical to myself, Dan. I'm not giving it to you. That's the difference.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Okay. Sure, whatever, dude.
Whatever
makes you sleep at night. I'm with you. Like you, and it's funny you mentioned that because Joe Ortiz even talked about that. Like you can't go wrong with building on a strength of your roster.
Correct.
So like, let's say you have great receivers. That doesn't keep you from drafting another one. Let's say you have great offensive linemen. Doesn't keep you from drafting another one. Like you build on a strength. So like, do I think they're going to go tackle in round 1? I really don't. I really don't. No, offensive tackle. Like I don't think they're going to go offensive tackle.
They're not going to do that.
They're not going to build on a strength that is in a position that they have 2 all pros basically, unless they're going to do it later in the rounds for depth.
And remember what Brett Coleman said when he came back from the combine. He said he went into the combine feeling really, really good about the tackle class year. And then he left Indianapolis saying, I really don't feel good about the tackle class this year because you have so many guys in terms of their measurables that are now projected to perform better at the NFL level kicking inside. But it's a great problem for the Chargers to have because that now just adds to the group of, hell, let's just say if it was Gray Zabel at 22, you come back around in rounds 3 or 4 and you take another interior offensive lineman, hell yeah. You're starting to build an ass kicker in the trenches.
Yep. Let's get to some of these voicemails, Jake. Again, 323-902. I'm getting this right? Yeah. 7586. One of these days I'm going to have that memorized.
Remember the number, Dan.
Yes, I apologize. First voicemail here for the Chargers Unleashed hotline. If folks want to leave a voicemail while we're live, we got another half an hour or so. Let's hear what that to say.
Quebec. Hi, my name is Leo from Quebec. Bonjour, mon nom c'est Leo du Québec. Guys.
Wait, Leo from where?
Quebec.
No, but where in Quebec?
Don't know, but it's Quebec.
Keep it rolling.
Happy to have him here.
The question is, what is your first round pick right now? Thank you.
Yeah, I still stand on it's Gray Zabel or it's Colston Loveland. I still feel like in terms of what's projected and what would be the best options in terms of the Chargers going BPA at that particular point, that would probably be it. You put it in like the second tier of options. If Kenneth Grant's there, oh my goodness, good problem to have. The Omari and Hampton conversations will never go away because it does make sense for the Chargers at 22 if he's there for sure. But if I had to stack rank those would be my top 2 in Zabel and Loveland.
I'm telling you, Loveland would feed families. This fan base, good Lord. I don't see them going receiver. I don't. Maybe if T-Mac is there, but like, I don't think Tech is going to fall. I really don't. Like my heart says Colston Loveland, but my head says it's going to be interior offensive line. So I think I'm with you. I think if Colston Loveland's there, I don't think they pass up on him.
I don't see how they could.
Okay, I'm going to add a hypothetical here. But this is a very quick and easy one.
This is number 2, by the way.
Okay.
Keeping track.
Loveland, Zabel. Let's say they're both on the board. Who do you think they take?
I would say Loveland. That's actually an easier hypothetical for me to answer. I would say it's Loveland 100%. Yeah.
Okay. Rich, let's get some in the comments, Jake. Rick H Town, Derek Harmon,
Yes.
Kenneth Grant.
Yes. Here's why I would actually give. I think Derek Harmon's going to go earlier than what people are projecting. And if he's there at 22, I think that the Chargers should definitely give him some consideration. Here's why. Because he would be a different archetype for your interior defensive line than what you currently have on the roster. And we talked about this last week a little bit. When you lost Poona Ford, who was a valuable piece to your run defense last year, he also had some pass rush capability that kind of just flew under the radar. And now you brought in two guys in Naquan Jones and Deshaun Hand that are much better at stopping the run, but don't nearly have as much of the pass rush juice as Poona Ford did. So you're trying to replace one guy with two. And Tahir Tart, still, again, better at defending the run. You need a little bit more of a pass rush presence in the interior. And that's what Derek Harmon would bring. So if Derek Harmon's there at 22 and that ends up being the selection, hell yes. Let's go.
Dan Siegel asks, if we want a Super Bowl ring, doesn't it behoove us to take trenches instead of going receiver, tight end, running back in the first 4 rounds? Yes and no. Because again, like you look at the offensive line for this Chargers team, like they've got 3 out of 5 locked, right? Andre James, I think, would be average at worst. But you look at what he did with the Raiders with the scheme he had previous to this last year. He was solid, man. Josh Jacobs was cooking. So that's 4 out of 5. So into your defensive line, you mentioned it. Like it's a deep, deep class this year. Don't forget, though, that Eagles team was stacked. I mean, they didn't have scrubs at receivers. They had 2 first-round wide receivers. They didn't have scrubs at tight end. Dallas Goedert's a dude. And by the way, they also had like the running champ in Saquon Barkley. So like A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, like those guys also are on the team along with the trenches. Now they can afford to have that because they have the trenches, and the trenches are really kind of what won that game, which I agree with. But like they still had the other dudes. Are the Chargers where the Eagles are at from a trench game? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Could they, in theory? Yeah. I mean, they could get there. If they just wanted to go all in on just beefing the shit out of the offensive defensive line trenches, they could do it. And they just have to hope that Hampton and or Najee and whoever else is running the ball and Justin Herbert can pull rabbit out of his hats. Otherwise, they're going to win, 17, 13 games all season. But I don't know. I get the point. Fitness says people are really high on Malachi Starks for good reason.
So was Brett Coleman. Speaking of hypotheticals, remember when we asked him about that? Like, could you imagine a safety room that had Derwin, Elijah Molden, Alohi, and Malachi Starks? Holy shit.
That'd be wonderful.
That would be insane.
George Greenwald, would you consider trading up to jump Denver to grab Loveland? Yes.
Yes.
What are they at? Like 19, 18?
2 picks ahead of the Chargers. 20.
So you have to get to 19.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd do it. 22 to 19, you probably have to give up what? Like probably a pick swap.
They've already robbed you of one tight end. Don't allow them to rob you of a second one.
And then you think about like Evan Ingram there, plus Loveland maybe. Then you think of Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, possibly Genty. Like,
if there's one thing that we can fully agree on, that at the tight end position right now, if you stack ranked all the options of the AFC West, the Chargers are the weakest. No question.
Tight end position. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Action Dan says this is already a better team than we had last year. We haven't even drafted yet.
How does that make you feel, Dan?
But is that true? Hold on. I don't want to just like throw flowers around. Is that true? I think the offensive line is better. Yes.
Okay.
I don't think the running back stable on paper is better. Like Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins is good. So as it stands right now, if you want, at best, call it a wash. Again, after the draft, maybe, but at best, right now, I'd call it a wash. Would you agree?
I'd call it incomplete. And I say that similar to you because I don't think that Najee's going to be the bell cow. It's going to be a running back by committee. He's definitely going to contribute heavily into this offense. There was a reason that they went out and got him for his durability and the yards that he's been able to produce over the last couple of years. But again, it's still a 1-year deal. You're going to try to find your running back of the future in the next 33 days.
Yeah. Receivers, I think you would have taken, going into the season, I think you would have taken last year.
I think it's actually seeing what we saw from DJ Chark last year.
That's what I'm saying.
I would say that it's slightly better.
Yeah. But
Slightly.
like revisionist history, sure. But going into the season,
yes.
Yeah, Josh Palmer, you thought was going to have a come up, finally getting his chance after Michael and Keenan Allen are gone. You didn't know Quentin was going to happen. He was pretty good. Like, there's a lot of, I don't know. I think right now you have to say worse. Linebacker, probably better. Corner, wash.
Corner's a question mark. Corner is a question mark.
Safety, better. It's an argument. But to his point, they've had 0 selections yet.
Yes.
So that's pretty darn good. Let me get, wow, I'm way behind. People are really questioning if it's a wash. I think he meant the running back room. Yeah. I don't know if you could say the running back room is that much better or worse right now. I don't know. I'll say it.
Wash your shorts, damn it.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means.
Maybe just take the term wash and throw it out your mouth.
I guess. Only thing that got better was offensive line and tight end. Everything else is worse. I wouldn't even say tight end is better. I mean, again, you look back, you thought Hayden Hurst, like you thought that'd be a pretty good.
I think that you feel better about Conklin coming in as a pass catching option rather than Hayden Hurst, even when it was announced last year after the Will Dissly acquisition. I think you feel better about Conklin coming into this offense.
Well, but again, like this has the benefit of revisionist history, like hindsight's 2020.
Okay, maybe it was just me. I wasn't over the moon about Hayden Hurst coming in.
Maybe it was just me then, because I was.
And yes, I knew it was because familiarity with Greg Roman's offense. That's all well and good. But in terms of previous production that had been there, it wasn't anything that would really wow you. And I'm not trying to say that in another argument that Tyler Conklin has, because there's still steps to be taken to elevate the tight end room. But yeah, I would agree that the tight end position in this case right now, even before the draft, is better.
Jonathan asks, is there any way the Chargers can pick up Ratledge and Scatabo based on where they're projected?
Dan, this is a question for you. You're alum. Come on.
Is there any way they can? I mean, yes, they could pick up Scatabo. I think Scatabo's an easy one to pick up if they really wanted to. Ratledge is your guy. When is he going?
He should go in round 2. It's just a question on whether or not he falls to 55. Scatabo has kind of been an anomaly because some people have him as like a straight 3rd round pick. Or some people believe that because day 2 is usually the run on running backs that you have, that he's going to go higher than that. I could see him falling as a 2nd or 3rd round pick, honestly. So in this scenario, could I see that happen? Yeah, I could. It's just no guarantee that they're going to be there.
Yeah. Ismail, hope I said this right. Just tuning in. Not sure if you're already answered this. Do you see us trading up, down, or sticking and picking? If it was, what would Jake do?
You know what I would do.
Yep. so I don't have to answer that part. Rhymes with schmating schmoun. But if you were, I mean, yes, I would take all three. And honestly, depending on who it is, I'd be perfectly on board with trading up or down. I think the Joe Ortiz philosophy, while they did it last year, but they were able to do a pick swap where they didn't really lose much. Trading back, getting more top 100 picks, like that sounds like a pretty good idea to me. But also trading up and getting the guy you want and it hitting, that also sounds pretty good to me.
It's proven that philosophy worked last year.
But giving this front office, scouting department, Joe Ortiz and company more at-bats seems like a good idea, considering their track record. If I had to guess, oh man, that's tough. I mean, the odds are they stick and pick. That's where the highest likelihood hits, but I don't know. I don't do hypocriticals. I don't do hypercriticals, Jake.
No, you just ask them. You don't do them. You just ask.
That's
him.
right. Two Papa says Mason Taylor is impressive. Wouldn't mind him at all.
Neither would I. Him or Gunnar Helm, honestly. And that's why I kind of went back at Dan's argument a little bit, just depending on the archetype of the tight end that you're looking for beyond Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland. There's still Elijah Arroyo. There's still Harold Fannin Jr. There's still Gunnar Helm. There's still Mason Taylor. And I think that any one of those guys could be a great fit. Now,
but what does great fit mean?
Fit for what you need. So you have Tugger Fisk and Will Dissly as your inline tight ends. You need move tight ends, and you kind of got a little bit closer to that with signing Tyler Conklin. But you need to give Justin Herbert a weapon that he has not had at that position since Hunter Henry. And if it means having two guys come in and spelling that, sure, do it. Colston Loveland and Tyler Conklin. Yeah.
That's what
dig it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and I think that's what I'm curious. You know, we look back to last year's draft and like rounds 1 through 4, aside from a Boygby, hell, rounds 1 through 5, if we're being honest, like we're pretty much all starters. Now, what does that say about the depth of that roster last year? Different story. But impact players. The only reason why Colston was, in my opinion, not out there was because of injury. And then he just wasn't able to catch on. His whole offseason was kind of cut short. But Joe Alt, dude. Ladd McConkey, dude. You got a Boygby, TBD. Junior Colson, dude. Then you got two corners, Tarheeb Still, Cam Hart, dudes, right? Like these are all guys making impact. We don't know about Kamani Vidal yet. So I don't know if they're going to go into the draft in the first 3-4 rounds drafting a player that would be like a by committee type, which is some of those tight ends we're talking about. Like, in my opinion, they're drafting dudes to like be their guys. So I think that's kind of where I look at this is like impact players and not just like depth pieces is kind of what they're looking for early. There's a question here about what are the chances of this Chargers team going a rookie quarterback? I know it's not to replace Justin Herbert, but hold on. James Wagner was in here somewhere. Hold, please. While we're asking, draft Herbert's brother, late day 3?
I mean, I'm sure Justin Herbert would appreciate it. I just don't see them waiting on the tight end position until then.
Yeah, I don't either. James asks, is there a reason to believe quarterback wouldn't be a priority draft pick for actual rookie depth security?
Is there a reason to believe it? That it wouldn't be an option? No, I think that they would consider this.
Define priority draft pick, I think is what I would ask.
Okay, so if you're talking rounds 1, 2, 3, then no.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
if that's what constitutes the priority draft pick, then no. Absolutely not.
Here's a fun question. Putts and Bolts, $5 donation. Thank you, super chat. What player needs to be there for Jake to not trade down? Dan, how often do you play golf, and what's your handicap?
There's a short list. I've kind of already talked about a majority of them. Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon, Gray Zabel, Colson Loveland. In a different universe, Tyler Warren falling. Yeah. Omarion Hampton. Obviously. But, yeah, they're traditionally, I will admit, my list would not have been that long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a long one this year.
It's amazing what a different front office organization can do to change your opinion on that.
And why do you think that is? Like, what's changed?
Well, let's see. Number one, Tom Telesco never traded down, regardless of the situation. So let's remind ourselves of that, even when he probably should have in a number of different scenarios. But to your question, what has changed? It's the difference in depth that was built rather than just relying on first round talent and top heavy. Because now you have afforded yourself the priority or the possibility of BPA. Whereas before it was more, oh, damn, we know we need this guy at this position and you can't pass round 1 or 2 without getting it. And then we all held our collective breaths for round 3 for the better part of 10 years. But Joe Ortiz has come in and built the floor, which is something that hadn't been done for this team, you could say, for close to 15 years. And now it's afforded you the option of going BPA, which expands the list, of course.
To the second question, how often do you play golf and what's your handicap? So prior to having my daughter, I played a shit ton. Post, it's been all pickleball. So if you were to ask me what my handicap score is right now, like not great. I'd probably say I shoot. If I can get under 100 right now, I'm probably happy, which is kind of sad. But yeah, that's where I'm at. But ask me pickleball, I'll smoke you. I'll tell you right now. Let's see. Alan says trade for Njoku. I mean, in theory, sounds great. But from what we've seen so far, I just don't see this Chargers team letting go of draft picks.
Yeah, he was the hot name around trade deadline last year for the Chargers. That didn't end up materializing. And I don't think that that's going to materialize at this point either. I think if you were going to do that with as big of a name as David Njoku is for the tight end position, I think that would have happened already, honestly.
Chargers with going quarterback with one of the 6th round selections.
There you go. There we go. That's a priority slot. There we go.
And oh, by the way, they have 4 of them and counting. So yeah. Andre says the Darius Smith on a 1-year deal is my next region move to help Mack. Yeah, Jake, you and I talked about this offline.
Mm-hmm.
I think edge veteran is the next move. Whether it's the Darius Smith, hell, it could still be into your offensive line still, but I think edge depth, get a veteran in here alongside Mack for 1 more year. Yeah. I'm not even saying it's going to take away from Tuli, but get him in here. You just need depth at that position. I think that's important. How much does Tyreek Hill, I believe it's Tyreek Hill, want? That's the question. Jake, do you think there's a chance?
No. The same question was asked to us last week, and my response was, what, has he changed his mind again? Because as soon as the season ended, he said he wanted to bail. He was putting up all of his deuces on Twitter and basically implying that he was out. And then it was like 2 weeks later, has a conversation with the Dolphins, everything gets squared away. He's like, no, I'm not going anywhere. Guy at this stage in his career saying stuff like that, I don't think that that's for the Chargers right now. It's not a knock on the man's capability. You would love an archetype of Tyreek Hill for what he can bring to an offense for sure.
Any team would.
But no. I don't think that he's going anywhere. I don't think the Dolphins are going to send him anywhere. I think they need as much help for Tua right now as they possibly can. And he's going to remain in Miami.
You got folks, the local beat, that are actually talking about like drafting a quarterback over there. So I think they got bigger problems. Jake, next voicemail. Let's see what they got to say.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matthew. Just want to say Happy morning. And just want to know, a quick question is, do you think this team will be open for finding somebody in the trade deadline during the season? Do you think that's possible this year or no? Let me know what you guys think. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a long way away from the trade deadline. We'll see what the season looks like for the Chargers at that point. But they've already proven that they were active on the trade deadline, even though they weren't actually able to execute a trade last year. Let's remember, they were in on the Deontay Johnson trade to try to get him over to the Chargers. They tried it twice, once at the trade deadline and then once again when he was released by the Ravens. And neither situation ended up working out for them. So 100%, depending on where you may be at that point in the time in the roster, whether due to injuries or your record or whatever it may be, I think the Chargers definitely will be in play for it.
Yeah, I agree, especially if they're contending. I think that's the most important part. I mean, any team wants to get better. Chargers were in it last year, didn't end up getting it, but also remember, Chargers were in it throughout the entire season. They're looking at other folks' rosters, bringing guys in that people were like, "Who is that?" I don't even, and made they made a lot of lemonade out of lemons. Let me tell you. Next voicemail, Jake.
Hey guys, Jay Richard 84 here. Missed the podcast earlier today, but I'm catching up now. Saw
This must have been from earlier in the week.
Becton signing and couldn't be happier. Hoping that we could get a little more depth at wide receiver, defensive line, and just go best player available in the draft. What do you guys think? Pretty excited. Bolt up, fellas. Take care.
Shout out to Jay Rich, by the way. Appreciate him calling in. Yes, and yes. Mekhi Becton is, and we talked about it ad nauseum last week. I don't think you can overstate it enough how much his signing means to the interior line, and more specifically for Justin Herbert, and more importantly for Mekhi Becton, taking him out of one of the best offensive lines in the league and putting him next to a pretty good situation in Joe Alt. If you're going to move anywhere, that's a pretty good place to move. Tight end, as the floor has been raised on that, which is great. It does not take away the Chargers selecting a tight end early in the draft, which is another fantastic option. And yeah, you still need to build depth along that interior of the defensive line. Again, strictly just from the standpoint of contracts alone. You need to find some long-term investments there. And damn, in terms of long-term investments along the defensive line, it's been a while since that has been a true priority
or strength
for them. Yes. And you've been able to get away with it in certain circumstances, i.e. your Puna Fords of the world last year. But you need to find some long-term options and ones that are going to produce, not a former first-round pick out of Notre Dame.
Robert S. We need Bob from Boston. Bob, where are you? You must be really cold up there in the Northeast right now. Man, apparently we're doing lots of hypotheticals this fitness. To Papa. Jake, question. Draft Willie Lampkin and make him a fullback? Thoughts?
So Willie Lampkin is, I mean, it's probably the biggest size be damned option that you could possibly make for an offensive lineman coming in the size of him. I would love to see him prove all the naysayers wrong, given his size. I really would, because it's similar to the archetype of Puna Ford. People looked at him as too short, wasn't going to be able to handle the defensive line, and he took the mantra of low man wins every time, and he was able to build an NFL career out of it, and I love it. But I would probably shift more like, first of all, I think that the Chargers are set with whatever plans they have for Scott Matlock at fullback.
That's what I was saying.
But if you were to take a draft prospect in this, you could say, yeah, who could come in and do something like that? It's JJ Pegues. That would be my option, just because he's done it. He's ran the ball. He can do some damage back there. Yeah, that would be where I would go.
Cody Clothier. Do you see any more free agent signings before the draft, or will we see the next set of veteran signings post-draft? Yeah, I do. Got a month.
I'm interested to hear which positions, Dan, if any. I know you've talked about Amari Cooper previously. We talked a lot about a guy who wore number 13 for this team previously because Mike Williams talked about it. So who knows what's happening behind the scenes.
I think that happens after the draft, if it happens at all. I think it'd be a wide receiver. No, sorry. Amari Cooper would be interesting. I'm curious what happens with like Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs. But I would take Amari Cooper. And I think he just plays a lot more outside than the other guys available, like at a high-ish rate. And then edge. I think edge is the next one that you'll probably see. I wonder what happens with Asante Samuel Jr., though. I'm surprised that he's...
Last we heard was that the Bills were interested in him, but I didn't hear of anything coming of that.
Hampton, Loveland, or McMillan will be the pick at 22, depending on who's available in my prediction for the 2025 NFL Draft. Any thoughts, fellas? Robert, this might be what you would do, but this is not...
Well, hang on a second. I mean, two of those options you could totally see them doing. You're not in the Ted McMillan round one at 22 conversation.
No, I am. I totally would. Like, this is me bracing for knowing what this team is, and they've told us a million times, and then believing them or not believing them. If you were a betting man, you got to put, I don't know, 10 grand on a position that this Chargers team is going to take. Not what you would do, but what you think they would do. Are you putting it at tight end or receiver?
I'd put it at tight end.
Would you? I wouldn't.
If it was Loveland?
I think the odds,
that the odds on that are going to be heavy?
Well, one, the odds of him being there. And two, the odds of them going him versus a trench guy when all they've talked about is trenches.
Yeah.
I think the smarter money is on the trenches.
So you're taking the field in this circumstance then?
I would take the field. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Let's see. Next voicemail, Jake. Another one here.
Hey, this is James from Beaumont. I'm wondering, how would you guys feel if the Chargers went out and used their first 3 picks on strictly defense, shoring up where I feel like we really kind of let go a little bit? Because again, losing Bosa, losing Puna Ford, that's going to hurt. So if we use our first 3 picks and build off of what was already a good defense last season, I feel like it would be nothing but beneficial. Let me know what you guys think.
Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun a little bit. So he brought up 2 really good points in that. And we've kind of talked about it a little bit in terms of building the defensive line for the future. There's no question in my mind that the Chargers are going to put a or one of the primary picks in this draft for defensive line. No question about it. Whether it's day 1, day 2, they will come out of the end of the 3rd round with someone from this defensive line class.
I think you say with someone from Michigan.
Now, edge is kind of a similar scenario that you have to look at. I know someone was talking about, bringing in Zadarius Smith on a 1-year deal, and I totally get that. You already brought back Khalil Mack. You had to after Joey Bosa was released. But who's going to be your future beyond this season to pair with Tuli? Because Mack is back for this year, Bud Dupree is back for only this year. Trayvon Morris-Brash is there, but we have no idea what he's going to develop into, even though I think that he's strictly – if he was to come in for snaps right now, he's going to be strictly just third down speed rusher because that was what brought him to the dance at UCF. But you got to think long-term. Who the hell is going to round out this edge group beyond 2025? And then if it was me, if we were to say mixture of the 3 rounds – as we've heard Joe Ortiz talk about on numerous occasions, you can never have enough good corners. And you just signed 2 corners in free agency, once again, both on 1-year deals. So Do I think the percentages of this happening defense rounds 1, 2, and 3? No, I don't see it as very high. However, I will say when you think about what the Chargers did last year, it was a little bit different story because they needed it. They went offense with their first 2 picks. But in the beauty part of all of this, from free agency, the Chargers have put themselves in a BPA position. Would I mind if they win defense 1, 2, 3? No, I wouldn't.
Fans would riot.
Would it be necessarily the smart move for Justin Herbert? Also, no. So that's why I don't think that the chances of happening would be great, because you have to get some weapons for Justin Herbert. You have to fortify the offensive line. Still, you have work to do. But, oh man, in this particular draft, the possibilities of what you could find at interior defensive line, corner, and edge in your first 3 picks, it's a great question, Dan. I'm answering it.
No. I know. I'm just imagining the point between like the night after day 2, if that happened. Like, it would just be sheer chaos.
People would have their arms up for sure.
Yes.
And I would totally understand why. But look, I'm a defensive junkie. I love those positions. So I just like that question. It was way out of left field. And are all 3 of those positions that I mentioned going to be addressed in the draft? Yeah, I definitely think they are, for the reasons that I gave, because you have to invest in the future. But like Dan said, there would probably be a couple pitchforks and what the hell signs being thrown up in the Chargers fan base if that actually happened.
TNT's Adventures to See. Yeah, this is actually what I would love. Again, what I would do versus what Joe Ortiz would do. But yeah, they could probably do this too. Trayvon Henderson paired with Najee Harris. For those who are not familiar with that kid's game, like, go watch Trayvon Henderson.
It's pairing Trayvon Henderson with Najee Harris.
That's what I'm saying. That's Thunder Lightning. And giving Justin Herbert weapons. Like, Colson Loveland paired with that. That is a transformed offense in 1 year. Think about that for a second. Let's say they do this. You get Mekhi Becton, Andre James, Najee Harris, Tyler Conklin, Colson Loveland, and Trayvon Henderson. And you can argue every single one of those benefits Justin Herbert or the trenches. Plus Mike Williams, by the way. Like, that is an overhaul. That'd be wild. Alex says, if the Chargers build in the trenches and still don't give Herbert weapons. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I get it. I get it.
Yeah. Matthew Gonzalez says, I would love Trey. Yes. Let's see. Let's get to Magoo's World. We got about maybe 5-10 minutes left here, folks. I have done a lot of mock drafts just to see how different choices change who is available. You can get good DL and IDL later. Need a receiver, tight end early in the draft. Tight end, yes. I'm not sure receiver. Again, I'll stand on it. I don't think this Chargers team needs a bona fide wide receiver. I don't. Like, they got Ladd. I think they need competent receivers to do specific things. They need a competent boundary guy, like a Mike Williams for the future, and they need a competent burner who can stretch the field. Pair those with Ladd, and I would hope like a legit tight end. Like, yeah, I think that works. I think it does. Let's see. What else? They really need an interior pass rusher too, says Catherine. Yeah. Charger Zena says, so sad. Why didn't our last GM work hard to give us backup players like Joe is doing that now? And that was something, Jim, we and I talked about ad nauseum, about like how thin this roster had been for years.
Yep. And
amazing what a different philosophy can do to that.
I'll bring Benjamin Solak's article up again that he wrote. I think this was the tail end of last year, maybe shortly after Tom Telesco had been relieved. he basically just went through a breakdown of whether it was free agent acquisitions or draft picks selected under the Tom Telesco area. Actually, I take that back. It was more so of the draft picks that were selected by Tom Telesco. Outside of the selections in the first round, there were only 2 players out of that saw second contracts. That was Keenan Allen and Trey Pipkins. That is insane. Which, ironically enough, both of those players were taken in the 3rd round, and one of the worst reputations that Tom Telesco has is selecting players in the 3rd round. But that is not how you build a team. You cannot just rely on your first rounders to carry you the rest of the way. It was horrible team building on Tom Telesco's part. Let's be honest. It was absolutely horrible. And probably the best free agent signing that he made during his tenure, arguably, was Casey Hayward. That was probably the best one that he made that actually gave you a return on investment. And this team stuck with that for too long.
Yes. All right. We got maybe 5-10 minutes max here. So if you want to throw in your rapid fire questions or topics to us, we'll see if we can kind of go through these as quickly as we can. But Jake, I think I want to kind of just double click for a second on like the strategy and philosophy of this free agency. And so many people were clamoring for like big ticket free agents and spending all that cash, just burning holes in pockets. You know, we get all that. But what this Chargers team has quietly done in the volume of signings, remember, they had like 24 free agents outbound, if you will, prior to them signing anybody back. And ho-hum, they bring back Elijah Molden, Khalil Mack, Tyler Tart, backup quarterback Tyler Heineke. They bring back their punter, J.K. Scott. Troy Dye, massive special teams importance here. Denzel Perriman, which a lot of folks loved. They bring back Bozeman on kind of a depth leadership deal. And that's just the guys that they kept. And then you add in like the flurry of folks that they brought in from an external perspective. You look at the defensive line that was beefed up. Tight end, cornerbacks, they bring in 2. They bring in 2 offensive linemen. Mike Williams, they bring in. They bring in a bell cow, Najee Harris, who I think, Jake, you and I probably maybe differ a little bit on how they're going to use Najee Harris. I think they're going to use him a ton. I think that's what they want to do. But that's a ton of moves, man. And they were calculated. None of these signings, none of these contracts are ones that put them a little out above their skis. Like all of these, you can argue at worst were low risk deals. Like let's say any of the deals don't work out. They're not JC Jackson territory. They're not even close. The most expensive deal they have is the Mekhi Becton one. And it's hard for me to believe that a guy of his caliber is not going to be worth $10 million. I'm sorry. You saw what guys were getting this year in free agency? Come on now. Najee Harris, incentive laden, Tyler Conklin, Mike Williams, all these guys. Like that's how you build a roster, and you look for surplus value. And so for all the incoming that they were taking, snap the line to now. Like I'd say they did a pretty damn good job. Would it be? Is it the way that you would have done it? Maybe not. But
Maybe
is it the
not.
way that maybe wins championships a bit better and is more sustainable? Yeah. Some people don't like the 1-year contract thing, but I think it affords them flexibility one way or the other.
That's what it is. It's playing the long game. And look at what you did on 1-year contracts last year for the guys that you had to come in and perform. And this goes back to what I was talking about last week, is that there is a lot of stock, and this team has not had the capability of hanging their hats on this, that when you have coaching that the Chargers have now, whether we're talking about Jim Harbaugh, Jesse Minter, more specifically that I'll get into with Steve Clinkscale in terms of this example, when you have that to rely on, that's where these 1-year deals can come into play. That's where a BPA strategy in the draft can come into play.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have the type of performances you had last year with guys who came in on 1-year deals and contributed, that's coaching. That's coaching. So you didn't have that with Brandon Staley. You didn't have that with Anthony Lynn. You didn't have that with Mike McCoy. And it was more so that you were drafting on high price contracts because of the talent that unfortunately with the Chargers just was not able to hit. Now you have a better possibility because of coaching to get some of these guys that may be considered reclamation projects, i.e. the Christian Fultons of the world, the J.K. Dobbins. And you can bet money on that. You can put more stock behind that and more trust that your coaching staff is going to be able to elevate these guys' play.
Last voicemail, Jake from Chargers Hotline came in just the nick time. Let's hear what that say. I think this was literally from minutes ago.
What's up, fellas? It's Ty from Atlanta here. I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet. Roses are red,
Ooh, I love this.
I'm so excited.
violets are blue. Chargers are the best. Broncos, Raiders, and Chiefs. Poop.
Well done. Well done.
Awesome.
Let's see. Alohi got a second contract again. Like this was after the fact. We're talking not day one, I believe is what it was, right?
Well, it was if you look at Alohi, he was signed in the offseason last year, right? Or was it 2 seasons ago? Okay.
Seasons ago.
So I stand corrected. The last year of Tom Telesco was when he made it 2-3. But still, even saying that, that's 2 third-round picks and a 6th-round pick that saw a second contract. In the better part of a decade that Tom Telesco was there. It's, once again, not how you build up your roster properly.
Dick the Kicker says, see the vision? ? Yeah, I do. Catherine says, Ortiz's free agency is no surprise when looking at the Ravens' history, which is about building a sustainable and successful roster. Sustainable is the key word there. Pammy Hamilton, hey guys, what do you think about Savion as a fit for us in later rounds?
Dan, you're a big fan of Savion. This question's to you.
I like him. I know folks don't like TCU. Like, I get it. But, yeah, I like him. I think he's good. I think he's a talented, versatile offensive weapon that Justin Herbert would like. We're talking Corey Linsley. Yeah, that was a fun signing. Magoo's World. I think the move in free agency is for now. Draft is for the future. I think draft is for now and the future. But yes, I think I would agree with that sentiment. To Papa, one thing to realize is how far the direction of the team has improved under Ortiz and Harbaugh and staff. The fact we are in this position in year 2 is impressive. It's happening, folks. Dominique, greetings from Germany. Bolt up. James Wagner, love you guys. Love you guys. Love the show. Got to go pick up the wife's pizza order. Keep up the great work. Jake and Dan, you both rock. God bless.
Appreciate it. And I just double-checked myself. Alohi Gilman was signed in the offseason last year during Joe Ortiz's first tenure. I thought it was last year.
Was it last year?
So Telesco still remains with 2.
Okay. Mighty says, haha, glad y'all enjoyed my poem. Thank you. Thank you, Mighty. That was great. Pay Slater now. Only going to cost more later. Agreed. 100%. Please pay late. And I get it from his agent perspective. Yeah, keep kicking that can. Like, you're going to get more and more and more money. 100%. 100%. Cody says, big ticket free agents have never led to success for the Chargers in the past. Yeah.
I mean, if the only examples that you want to use are for Casey Hayward and Khalil Mack, that's a short list. But you go back to a few years ago when the Chargers had all that money to spend and they brought in a lot of those big name free agents. No, it didn't. I remember Derek Cox still. I will never forget Derek Cox in Tom Telesco's first year as GM. And that was one of the first free agent signings that he made. Woof. Yeah.
A couple of minutes left here, Jake. Before we get to the kind of the last of the rapid fire, any topics, any thoughts you wanted to get out or respond to before flying through these last questions and comments?
This is the best part of the live show, man. We go through so many topics that we cover in the better part of an hour and a half now. This is what the live show is about. So anybody with any questions, by all means, these are great.
Tony, 65 years as a fan, and I am the most excited watching Coach Harbaugh. We have a good juju right now. Trenches. Think trenches.
Tony, I love this. God bless you for being a fan this long.
You've made it.
Because us that have been following this team, at least ones that as long as I've been alive,
it's been tough.
I know that there was a time of heartbreak before I started watching. And times that I cannot even speak on because I didn't see it. So God bless you.
Derek, why can't we sign Calais Campbell? Still solid and a good leader. We could take a day 2 defensive tackle and develop him under CC. Some reasonable, no? Yeah.
Calais Campbell's taking something. He's taking something for still being
playing
able to
somewhere
play at his age.
He's also playing somewhere too. He's definitely going to get signed somewhere. Catherine asked, when's the last time the Chargers had a legit number 1 defense tackle?
Not in recent memory. You probably have to go back to Jamal Williams.
Yeah, Mike says it. 06 Jamal Williams.
And that's it. You've tried to replace Jamal Williams in so many different ways since then, and you've never gotten it.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
Jeez. And this is the type of defense where like they prioritize that. So I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. And this is a free agent. This is a draft class to do it. Honestly. Let's see. Mighty with a $2 donation with the poem. Thank you. Appreciate that. Let's see. Delt Slater was impressive at the Senior Bowl. Can Tate play left guard? I can see the switch as a possibility with a lot of these guys.
Yes.
I don't know.
Ratledge can do it. Freak of an athlete. And then when you have Jared Wilson and Gray Zabel going off in the same group at the combine with them, the second group of the combine for offensive line was awesome to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome to watch.
Here you go. Chargers will go 12-5 this year, ? With this schedule, that's tough, dude.
It's a tough ask for this schedule and the way that the AFC West has bettered itself as a whole. That is tough. I would love to believe that you're going to be right.
That's a great way to put it.
I would love to believe that you're going to be right.
Yeah, I would love that too. Matthew Dahl, I don't want prime Justin Herbert to be wasted. No wide receiver. I don't want Herbert prime to be wasted.
So to clarify, are you saying no wide receiver first round, or you don't want Justin Herbert's prime to be wasted because they didn't take a wide receiver? Which one is it?
Or because they do take a receiver.
Right, which one it is.
I'm not prepared to answer this yet, but Jake, maybe you are. Who is the best route runner amongst all the receivers in the draft?
I mean, Restrepo's in that conversation. That'd be where my first inclination goes is to Restrepo. I've said to Dan on previous shows that if the Chargers didn't have Ladd McConkey on this team, we'd be talking a hell of a lot more about Xavier Restrepo, for sure.
George Greenwald, Ortiz is a legitimate exec of the year candidate every season. He is awesome. I mean, you could argue with what he did with that season, with that roster last year to get to 11 wins. I mean, I know it's chicken or the egg thing with coaching players and execs, but yeah, I mean, he was cooking. And for how he was able to get the coaching staff what they wanted and or needed, like, yeah, that's pretty darn good. Ortiz is great at knowing what the fans think are missing on the team. He covers all the bases, and we got to respect it. May not be how we want it, but he gets it done. I don't think Ortiz gives two shits about what people say on social media. I think he knows more than we do what this Chargers team needs. And a lot of us, are right with what this Chargers team needs. But how they go about doing it, like he said, may not be how we want to do it, but he gets it done. And you know what I kind of like is, for better or for worse, I guess I have to argue worse.
Worse.
We kind of knew the types that this Chargers team was after in the Telesco era? The features, the traits, the characteristics, the things that they prioritized when going after, especially in the draft, but also a free agent. I love what the staff goes after, like the type that we're starting to see, right? Like durable, physical, available, dependable, or high trait, coachable. Like just football dudes. Like you take that. That's what wins, man. That's what wins. Folks answering the question. Tez Johnson as the best route runner. Matthew Golden. Got folks, people.
Golden's a great route runner.
Igbuka also in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Alan says, what's the use of having 1-year prove-it deals if you prove it and don't get re-signed like Ford and J.K. Dobbins?
I will admit, and we've heard a lot of people say this exact same thing. That's one I think that the Chargers let get away. And who knows, do I believe that the Chargers wanted Puna back? Yes. I don't believe they just said, goodbye. He was invaluable to that interior of the defensive line last year. But Puna Ford got himself a great deal. And yes, numbers-wise, you would think that the Chargers would have been able to make something out of that. And I wish that they did. I wish that they could have. And I've told Dan this. I've been in the camp that I felt that I was in favor more of the J.K. Dobbins signing a second deal with the Chargers than going out and getting Najee Harris. Strictly because, number one, I felt that J.K. earned it. But two, I thought for the type of stable that you could build, now that Gus Edwards was no longer on the team, the stable you could build with the explosiveness of J.K. Dobbins and then another running back that you could find in this draft, that to me would have been Greg Roman's running game concept that he had last year, but just the 2.0 version of it.
But
I get what it is that he's trying to do or what his plan is with Najee, and I'm all for that. But I am still a believer in, pay for play. And I thought that J.K. Dobbins, coming back off of an injury and what he was able to add to lift to the running game when he was obviously in, was valuable. But when you look at the reasons that Najee Harris had come in, you also kind of understand the reasons why they chose to go in a different direction.
I really like J.K. Dobbins, and I would love for him to be back. But, I think the sad and unfortunate truth to this is when he's on the field, he's great. But you hear all the acronyms, there every day, the best abilities, availability, all that jazz. These guys want folks on the team that they can trust to be out there and have a high likelihood of being out there. And if you had to stack rank, put one next to the other and which ones that they value more and all the traits between Najee Harris and J.K. Dobbins, they chose Najee. It might not be what you do, but that's how they operate. That's how they operate. And now, can they go get someone that could be a J.K. Dobbins archetype in the draft? Absolutely. But there is some level of feeling, right? I love the J.K. Dobbins story, and he's fantastic. But is he dependable? Can you bank on him being available for 15 games a season? I think you know the answer. So that's me. Anything else, Jake? Am I missing anything?
I don't think you're missing anything. This is what we do these live shows for, and it's a lot of fun. Dan, I think it's time if we needed to tease anything. We're 33 days away from the NFL draft. I think it's time for some top 10 position list.
Oh, finally.
Yeah, it's about time. I think we're in the heat of everything. The evaluation process with the combine and all-star games are gone. The pro days are still going on. But I think we have a pretty good idea where certain positions are going to be. Now, I will admit, when we get to the running back and the interior defensive line episodes, holy shit. Spoiler alert, that's not the positions we're going to start with, because that's a tough list to stack rank. And you better believe that there's going to be some honorable mentions in there with how deep both of those classes are.
33 ways a day from draft.
That's how it came out initially. 33 ways a day.
Hypercriticals and 33 ways a day.
That's what's happened today. If we could sum up this episode, hypocriticals and 33 ways a day.
And what I love about the way that we do things here, Jake, is for better or worse, we do our top 10 ranks for the Chargers, not just top 10. And so when you inevitably see names, you're like, how the hell is blankety blank blank not on your top 10 list?
And we will preface that again before we even start reading off the list when we do the episode. We may have to preface that 3 or 4 times in the episode while we're still doing it.
Yep. So, but be prepared. Yeah, I'm super excited for that. And to your point, Jake, these live shows are the best. They're so much fun. I hope we got to most, if not all, of the questions and comments and thoughts and topics that you guys and gals wanted. Appreciate all of you. Enjoy the weekend, by the way. Jake, my coffee is almost done. Is your 125 milligrams of special sauce?
Historically, this would have been gone maybe about a half hour ago. I still got about 3/4 of this left. So you guys kept me busy.
Jake,
you guys kept me talking.
Finish it. Come on. Gotta finish it. I want to see you text me in 30 minutes after you finish this.
I just, have Bugs Bunny just jumping all over the walls.
Oh, man. Yeah, very fun episode. Appreciate all of you, all the comments, thoughts. Chargers, again, they've been calculated, and they've got 20 dudes and counting in free agency this year. And look, at the end of the day, I think it's important that this Chargers fan base recognizes the greatness that is Joe Ortiz and the experience that he has. 33 ways a day away, Jake.
33 ways a day.
That was special request. There was somebody in here that asked to play the chimes. So I play that sound.
I did not see that comment. Whoever you were, thank you. Bless you.
Jose, we got you. Haha, love it, says Jose. Look, this was fun. Trust the process. Chargers bringing Mekhi Becton, Tyler Conklin, Andre James to help shore up many holes that this Chargers team has had. And we're just getting started. Jake, anything fun happening this weekend? What are you doing?
It's actually a pretty mellow weekend. So, wife and I have been busy. We actually celebrated our wedding anniversary yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Outside of that, though, it's going to be a lot of couch time. We'll probably do our own favorite movie marathons, however we want to tailor it to do. And yeah, there is something called March Madness that's going on. So
is your bracket busted?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Woo! I'm out of there.
That's what they call it, madness. Yeah, I'm going to a concert out in the Temecula wine country, so that'll be fun. And then I got some family in town, so I'm taking them to a Korean barbecue spot tomorrow. So
nice.
Otherwise, that's pretty much it for me. For Jake, you can find him at Jake D. Hefner, myself at Dan W Sports on X. Do us a favor. Please take 20 seconds while we're signing off here, while you hear the fun sounds. Hit that like and subscribe on YouTube. Helps us out a ton. Leave a review, a comment on Apple, Spotify, whatever you guys want to do. But appreciate all of you. We're getting close to the draft and the madness that is that after March Madness is complete. But until then, Jake, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll talk to you next time on Chargers. Do you want to finish it, Jake? You can do it this time.
Unleashed.
Yeah.